Good morning everybody, we're back again for another week on the 1200 coupe. This week we're gonna muck around with getting this quarter panel sorted out and ready to go on. Obviously it's only half a quarter panel and unfortunately we've got a big chunk missing out of it here, so I've still got to fabricate that up. Fortunately most of this side is still there, so I can take a pattern from there and shift it over to the other side. I've got to make a pattern for that side anyway because, as you saw, it was all rusty. But yeah, so that's this week, sorting out the quarter panel. Hopefully we can get most of that done if we put our mind to it. But the guy with the XM coupe here has paid for a few more hours, so also got to spend some more time on this. I've been mucking around with getting the floor pan sorted out up the front here. As you can see, I've had to fabricate the front floor section over there, and I'm going to have to do the same on this side. These floor pans aren't always the best fit, so I've had to slice it up the middle because it was a fraction too wide, and I'll weld it back together again when I've got the fit right. Yeah, so a few hours on the XM and majority of it on the coupe. But I'm going to get cracking on it because, yeah, there's a lot to do. We're up to lunchtime on day one. And we've got the old quarter panel out, and this one is just sitting in place. As you can see, my edge of my rear panel that I fixed last week, it's fitting okay. Needs a fraction more shrinking around the bottom there, but other than that it's more than acceptable. So yeah, as I said, it's just sitting in place, it's not welded in yet. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to clamp this up here so it's in spot. And I'm just going to tack weld it to the other panel so that I can release the front part of the panel from the car and take the whole thing off. Yeah, and then I can concentrate on fixing the rest of the panel. So I thought I was on a winner here. I found this section here in the back of the car, but it's not 100%. As you can see, there's quite a sizable gap along here, and it's got to be like that because it's got to follow the body line up there. So I can't drop it down to close the gap up because then the body line will be wrong. And there's another big gap here. And we're missing the flange on the edge. So there's quite a, oh, not to mention the rust hole in the corner. So there's quite a bit of fixing to be able to use that panel. All that extra work with the extra fabrication and everything, it's going to be just as quick for me to make up a new panel from scratch. And also when you have to add this much extra filler rod when you're TIG welding, it's going to create a shit ton more heat in the panel, which is going to warp the panel more than it needs to be. And also there's extra heat when you're grinding that filler rod flat again. So I'm going to make a new section and close that gap right up to nothing, so I don't have to use barely any filler rod, because this metal is thin as, it's very thin. The whole car is very light. So yeah, gonna do it right the first time. And yeah, because we're so close to these vents and everything, I don't want to have to work this panel any more than I have to. Oh, well, that's that hole filled in. And the new part of the rear quarter is welded on. So she's got hips now. Just got to do that bit next. Oh, the quarter panel is not welded on, by the way. It's just on there for reference. So yeah, this bit here came with the car, but I had to make this part here because it wasn't quite right. And I reckon that part there took almost as long to make as what the lower part of the beaver panel there took me to make, so it was a bit fiddly. Anyway, down there is next, so I'll get onto that. Not tomorrow, because tomorrow I've got to spend some hours on the Falcon there, so yeah, we'll be back on it on Friday, I'd say. So I've done this last part of the video about 4 times now, just trying to make it a little bit more interesting. It's hard, but we'll get there. So, talking about the 1200 coupe. If you remember earlier in the week, there was a big hole here. So what I've done is had this section already, which is original 1200 tin, not from this car, but from a different one. But I had to fabricate this bit because it wasn't right. So yeah, that's took almost as long to do that, pretty much that whole section there, as what it did to make up the whole lower section of the rear beaver. But also I've done this lower section because all of that was missing as well. So really, if you follow this line, up around here and up to here and back, that section is the only original tin left from this quarter panel. All the rest of it, the rear part, all of that up there and all of this down here, that's all new tin to this car. So that shows you how bad that quarter panel was. I had to fabricate this whole section here because it was missing, and that was rusted out there. So the quarter panel is only sitting on there at the moment. It's actually tech screwed on because I've got more rust on the inner part of the car to fix, like up in there and so forth. So next week I'm going to take the quarter panel back off and I'll start fixing the inner part of the car. So basically there's a part missing from in here that I've got to weld back in. But you'll see next week. But yeah, this part here is only tack welded in at the moment. I've got to weld it in properly. Once I do that, it's going to warp like hell, so I'm going to have to flatten it out again. So yeah. So that's it for the 1200 for this week. I got a bit done. Next week I'm going to push to spend more hours out in the shed here. And I've got to get the 1200 rolling along for the next project can come in. So yeah, full steam ahead, guys. We've got to pull our fingers out, so to speak. Alright, anyway, I'm going to go play with my 240Z. Nothing exciting for you guys to watch, so I'll come back with another update on that soon, but at the moment, nothing really exciting. I'm just doing all the little fiddly bits before I hit it with the high fill primer and then paint. It's not far away, I tell you. I'm going to try hard this weekend to get most of it done, and then I can hit it with the high fill, rub it down, paint it. It's taking too long. Anyway, I'll see you next week on the 1200, guys.